What if the anxiety you struggle with is not a flaw in your personality, not a weakness in your character, but simply a habit your brain has learned and keeps repeating? What if the restless thoughts, the tight chest, the constant anticipation of something going wrong are not proof that something is broken inside you, but evidence of a very efficient learning system doing exactly what it was designed to do?
We usually describe anxiety as a feeling. We say, "I feel anxious," as if it were just an emotion that randomly appears. But anxiety is much more than a feeling. It is a learned behavioral loop. In the book Unwinding Anxiety, psychiatrist and neuroscientist Judson Brewer explains that anxiety is reinforced by the same reward-based learning system that creates habits like checking your phone, scrolling through social media, or reaching for snacks when you are not even hungry. The brain learns through rewards, and if a behavior brings even a small sense of relief, the brain marks it as useful and repeats it. Here is how the anxiety loop works. Something happens. You receive a short message from your boss. A friend replies with fewer words than usual. You feel a slight pain in your chest. There is uncertainty about the future. Immediately, your brain scans for danger. The human brain evolved to prioritize threat detection. It is always asking one silent question: is this dangerous? Before logic has time to analyze the situation, your nervous system prepares for protection. Your heart rate shifts, your muscles tense slightly, and your mind starts searching for answers. Then the worrying begins. You start thinking about what that message could mean. You imagine worst-case scenarios. You replay conversations in your head. You try to predict outcomes. Maybe you pick up your phone and check again. Maybe you search online for explanations. Maybe you plan multiple backup solutions. Or perhaps you avoid the situation entirely. On the surface, it feels uncomfortable. But underneath that discomfort, something subtle happens. You feel like you are doing something. You feel engaged. You feel temporarily less helpless. That tiny sense of control creates a brief moment of relief. That relief is the reward. It may be small and short-lived, but it is enough. Your brain registers it and concludes that worrying helped you cope. It does not evaluate whether the problem was actually solved. It simply notices that uncertainty decreased for a moment. So the next time a similar trigger appears, the brain activates the same loop more quickly. Trigger, worry, temporary relief, reinforcement. With repetition, the loop strengthens. Neural pathways become more efficient. What once required conscious thought becomes automatic. At first, you may worry about specific situations. Over time, the pattern generalizes. You begin worrying about more things, then almost everything. Life can start to feel smaller. You hesitate more often. You delay decisions. You avoid risks. Your confidence decreases. Your mind feels tired. Eventually, anxiety starts to feel like part of your identity. You might even say, "I am just an anxious person." But that statement is not a fact. It is a conclusion drawn from repeated experiences. Here is something essential to understand. You cannot eliminate anxiety with sheer willpower. Telling yourself, "I will not worry anymore," rarely works. Suppression does not retrain the brain. In fact, fighting anxiety often increases its intensity because resistance signals threat. The brain interprets struggle as danger. What changes anxiety is not force, but insight. The brain updates habits when it recognizes that the reward is not as valuable as it once believed. The next time anxiety appears, pause. Instead of immediately entering the spiral of thoughts, observe the process. Ask yourself, what triggered this reaction? What did I do next? And what did I actually do? And what did I actually gain from worrying? Be honest. Perhaps you worried for 10 minutes. You imagined multiple scenarios. You checked your phone repeatedly. At the end, you felt more exhausted than prepared. Maybe nothing changed in reality. When you clearly see that worry did not meaningfully solve the problem, your brain begins to adjust its internal reward calculation.
the perceived benefit decreases.
And when the reward value drops, the habit gradually weakens. However, the brain does not abandon a habit unless it finds something more rewarding to replace it. Removing worry alone is not enough. You must introduce a better alternative. That alternative is not forced optimism or pretending that everything is fine. It is curiosity. Curiosity transforms the experience of anxiety at a neurological level. When you become curious, your brain shifts from threat mode to exploration mode. Exploration feels safer. It activates different neural circuits. Instead of saying, "I need this anxiety to stop," try saying, "This is interesting. Where do I feel this in my body?" Notice the physical sensations. Is there tightness in your throat? Pressure in your chest? A knot in your stomach? Is the sensation warm or cold? Steady or pulsing? When you bring attention to raw bodily sensations rather than catastrophic thoughts, you anchor yourself in direct experience. Anxiety thrives on imagined futures, but bodily sensations exist in the present moment. They are concrete and limited. Observing them with curiosity reduces their perceived threat. A practical method that reflects this approach is often summarized with the acronym RAIN. First, recognize what is happening. Acknowledge that anxiety is present. Second, allow it. Do not immediately try to push it away. Third, investigate it with curiosity, focusing especially on bodily sensations and emotional texture. And fourth, nurture yourself with kindness. You might place your hand on your chest, slow your breathing slightly, and say internally, "This is difficult, but I am here with myself." Self-compassion is not weakness. It lowers the brain's threat response and increases emotional regulation. Language also plays a powerful role. There is a significant difference between saying, "I am anxious," and saying, "Anxiety is arising." The first statement fuses the experience with your identity. The second creates psychological distance. When anxiety becomes something you experience rather than something you are, choice becomes possible. You can decide how to respond. That small shift in language can reshape neural patterns over time. Another crucial element in breaking the anxiety loop is values. The brain needs direction, not just reduction of discomfort. If you weaken the reward of worry but offer no meaningful alternative, the old habit will return. Identify what truly matters to you. If connection with family is important, put your phone away during dinner and be fully present. If creativity matters, spend a few minutes creating when stress appears. If growth and learning matter, read or study instead of scrolling. These actions may seem small, but they provide deeper, more sustainable rewards. The brain begins to associate calm engagement with satisfaction. There will be setbacks. On days of poor sleep, high workload, or uncertainty, the old loop may reappear. You might find yourself scrolling excessively or avoiding responsibilities. This is not failure, it is information. Instead of responding with shame, ask what triggered the behavior. What was different that day? What emotion were you trying to escape? Reflection maintains learning. Shame interrupts it. Anxiety itself is ancient. For thousands of years, it helped humans detect predators, anticipate threats, and survive in dangerous environments. The same nervous system that once protected you from physical danger now reacts to emails, deadlines, and social interactions. Your brain evolved for a world very different from the one you live in today. But neuroplasticity remains. The brain can change through repeated experience. Each time you observe anxiety instead of automatically reacting, you weaken the old pathway. Each time you choose curiosity over catastrophic thinking, you strengthen a new one. Each time you act in alignment with your values instead of avoiding discomfort, you reshape your neural wiring. These changes are not dramatic in the beginning. They are subtle and cumulative. Over weeks and months, small repetitions create measurable transformation. If anxiety significantly disrupts your sleep,
relationships, or daily functioning, seeking professional support from a qualified mental health professional is essential. Therapy provides structured guidance for retraining these patterns. There are evidence-based treatments that effectively address anxiety disorders. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It is an investment in your mental health. Ultimately, anxiety is not your enemy.
It is a learned loop maintained by small rewards. When you understand the loop, observe it clearly, reduce its perceived benefit, replace it with curiosity, and act according to your values, you reclaim control. Anxiety may still arise from time to time. That is part of being human, but it no longer has to drive your decisions. With awareness, patience, and consistent practice, you become the one holding the steering wheel, guiding your responses instead of being guided by fear.